Oh,
My
leave
my
me
yearly
hanging.
fling with the Zoom voice robot can now begin.
My
Ugh.
lifestyle determines my death style.
We're gonna do it. This is the best produced game of the year we're ever gonna get. It's all downhill from here. And then, friends, we're gonna get right into it. Thank you for joining me for another year of our game of the year. I think it's crazy that we remain to be the only group of people who are doing rankings of games of the year based on any category. You would
Yep.
think that other people would catch on to this by now, but another year goes by and we're the only ones in the biz doing it. But thank you for joining us. We have got some returning friends this time around, and we got the definitive six stack of people. But we are going to get right into it with the best visuals category. This is a category that is kept intentionally vague because what incorporates visuals can mean a lot of things. Like I know in the past I have done things like best pixel art, I've done things like best stylized and best realistic, but I've kind of moved away from that in the last couple of years to just do overall what I was really vibing with this year. And I think it was a very, very strong year for visuals between the uh, newer consoles kind of firmly cementing themselves into the current gen. I just think we're getting a lot of really good looking games. But the first game I'm going to be talking about is not going to be a game that is leveraging all of that horsepower necessarily, but it is going to be a little game called Proteus. Proteus is a boomer shooter. It
Best kind of
is
shooter.
it is very much living in the brutal Doom visual realm, and I'm a super big fan of that. It does the kind of 2D models, pixel type stuff, then overlaid with a really, really high frame rate, and then the 3D environments. This is the first year I'm able to just have us displaying things onto the screen there, which is really, really nice because then I can sort of just point to that and that rules. But I've always thought the brutal Doom is one of the best like visual treatments Doom has ever gotten. So then booting up Proteus and getting right into it, I am super duper into the way Proteus looks, and it runs blisteringly smooth for the entire time you're playing it. It's got good gore and guts and chunks hitting up the screen constantly. Just a beautiful looking game, and I think that it does that thing of evoking what an old game looked like in your head when you were playing it, as opposed to maybe what it actually looked like.
I'm
But
gonna
I
just hop in on this because that's my number three as well.
Perfect.
Um, you can kind of see in the stuff like the guns and things look 3D, but that's all just like super detailed pixel art, which I think is so cool. Like taking that I don't like high def pixel stuff that they were trying to do with like Owl Boy or something like that was the last time I heard like high def pixels. And really just doing something cool with it. It kind of looks like claymation or like where they like take the pictures and put it into the games. It looks a lot like that, but it's all fully modeled stuff. It looks
Like
really
Danky
cool.
Kane Country.
Man, that
Yeah.
must have been a bitch to make.
Yeah. Yeah, the gore is really satisfying. It does that thing of having really good like lighting elements and stuff to kind of show you where you need to go. So it doesn't get all like lost in this like good graphics or crazy graphics. You still can figure out where you're supposed to go and what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think
It's
it's
a
a
good
really
game.
successful look. It's one of the first things that really enamored the game to me when I kind of booted it up for the first time. I was like, oh fuck yeah, this thing looks like Brutal Doom. Um, I just love it. I think it looks great. Oh, it's also got like a map maker and stuff in it.
It's got
Uh,
good gibs.
but with that,
Yeah, good give feel.
Jason, I'm going to go ahead and bounce it over to you since Ryan and I both understand that Proteus is factually the number three best looking game of 2022.
Based on facts. My number three was one that I was the one I was kind of battling with whether or not just pure quality versus visuals that made me enjoy the game more. But my number three in this one is Neon White. I think they did a good job between the like comic booky looking settings for the conversations and then the just really basic settings for the levels. I just like that it was a lot of just, I mean, it's crisp white and then really detailed popping colors for all the things you need to pay attention to, clean lines. I just felt like the gameplay was very smooth running through all those levels at the quickest speed. Everything like ran really well because it was really intricate on how you had to like hit certain angles. But
Hmm.
yeah, I just really enjoyed the colors and how crisp and everything looked when you were playing.
That's probably what heaven looks like.
I agree.
Admittedly, Neon White is probably on my missed connections list because I only got to play like 15 minutes of it at Dash's house once. But had I played more of it, like I was immediately drawn in by its visuals. So I would want to put it at best visuals if I had played more than 15 minutes.
I mean, they also did like it's a pretty simple thing, but they also like color coded everything.
Mhm.
So like you can
Mm.
tell which enemies are going to give you the shotgun or which ones are going to
Mhm.
give you the sniper rifle and stuff.
Yeah, it's all really like readable.
Yeah,
Like
and
you
it,
know
it
what you
has to
need
be
to do
just
once
with
you know
how
what you're doing.
fast the game moves. Like I think it's really successful in conveying a lot of information extremely quickly.
I agree. And speaking of that, Neon White is also my number 3. So
So Danny and
Just-
Hunter are going to share a number 3 then. That's how this has to go.
I think that's the rules.
I really
Yeah.
think I really need to go back and finish Neon White.
Yeah, you
I
do.
agree. Yeah, you do.
I still haven't finished it, but I played quite a bit of it.
I got
Uh,
to the last chapter, I think.
I think I finished chapter 9 or something.
Did that cut in a bit of okay?
Yeah.
It's also
Look, I'm-
lovely playing it in Proteus, apparently.
I also saw Mirror's Edge in there.
Look, I might have just gone on YouTube and looked up the first gameplay thing for each one.
Well,
Probably turn
also-
autoplay off.
That was a donkey video.
Don't worry
that's,
about it.
that's about right.
Gonna have to fix that in post.
I really
I'm
like
not gonna.
the intro as well. It's not really like a visual for the game, but like the opening like anime intro looks really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
well
Neon White's
We're
a
calling
good
animated.
game.
neons.
Lily, you have anything
Um,
else you need to say about it?
No, I mean I agree with Jason. It runs super well. I like the way that they color coded everything, so you know what you're supposed to do and for the most part where you're supposed to go. And I just think it looks very good. It runs super smooth and yeah, very much enjoyed every bit of it.
Great looking game.
Yeah.
But with that, Danny, since we know that yours is not Neon White, what would you say is the third best looking game of 2022?
It feels almost like a cop out, but Splatoon 3 is just I always love the like vibrancy of the Splatoon games. And I think it's great that they factor in like designing the game so that it can be played by people who are colorblind. Like they always pair colors that have that distinct contrast.
Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, no, it's a very intentional part of the game design to make it accessible, which I really appreciate. I'm not colorblind, but I think it's cool when developers make those decisions. And it again, a lot is happening in a game of Splatoon, and a lot of information has to be conveyed very quickly. And I think it does a very good job of that. It's big, it's splashy, it's just always fun and very pretty. Also, they like fashion is such an important part of this game, and just it's a like queer fashion wonderland, which I love. And so yeah, that gets into like the way you personalize your character and like it. I don't know. It's chaotic and gorgeous, and I love Splatoon 3, and I thought it had great fun visuals.
Yeah, I think Splatoon 3 looks absolutely killer, and also the fact that they can still get something that's looking this good out of Switch hardware, I think is absolutely phenomenal. Like I realize it's not doing that much more than like Splatoon 2 or things like that in
Yeah.
terms of like fidelity, but it still just looks really, really crisp. It runs really, really smooth. And I also am just a big fan of like the neo 90s resurgence that we're getting in a lot of things.
Goopy
Like,
90s.
And also like the I know that this one gets into a lot of the kind of general world building a lot more with just like the absolutely like bombed out apocalypse type stuff. Like I completely agree that Splatoon 3 is a gorgeous aesthetic.
Yeah.
But with that,
that's all I had to say. Or that's all I had to say on the board.
Hunter, what
You'll
is
never
your
believe it. My number three
what weeb shit that only you played is about to come up?
is Live Alive.
Ah, is that how you pronounce that?
That's how I pronounced it.
I don't remember. I knew at one point, but I don't fucking remember anymore.
That looks like Among Us.
Pretty sus.
But yeah, it's a remake of an SNES game, but they went with the whole Octopath Traveler kind of art style.
That's
with
always a
that-
good look.
I don't remember what they're calling it. It might be just HD pixel art or something. But yeah, it's just very detailed and lots of little, like, that's the far future chapter that Dash is showing where you play as a little robot named Cube, and there's just lots of little bleeps and bloops all over the place.
I'm a big fan of this thing that Squeenix has started doing since Octopath, and I have yet to get sick of it. And I would like every single like old game remake that they do to have this visual style. I'm not even slightly sick of it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love if they did this with like the old Final Fantasies or something
Yeah.
instead of that like smoothed out mobile game style they decided to go with.
Oh, that awful looking
So bad.
little, looks like an emulator filter.
Yeah.
Because it's like this. I think Triangle Strategy does that also. Octopath, obviously. I'm so into it. Like here, I can maybe jump around here because it's other things.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'm-
maybe find one that's not just
Bleeps and bloops.
bleeps and bloops. and
Little
the inside
robot
of-
walking down hallways of a spaceship.
Yeah.
God, that looks so
Imperial.
cool.
That's the Imperial China chapter. You're an old
You know what it
kung
kind of
fu-
looks like? Have you guys seen those like people make those like almost like 3D dioramas of video
Oh, it's like a
game?
shadow box.
Yeah.
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 Big
Looks
fan.
cool.
But that will then bring us back around to the second best looking game of 2022. And I think that I can extremely definitively make a call on what that game is. A few years ago, a game came out called Devil Daggers.
Dash, please.
It's
We cannot keep matching up.
a game came out called
How
Devil
embarrassing.
Daggers. Devil Daggers looked kind of like Quake, and it looked fresh as hell. But that developer went and surprise dropped Hyper Demon this year, and it's a first-person shooter
Obviously.
where you are killing demons with the wildest shit possible going on as the visuals. I really, really hate to reduce something like this down to a bad acid trip or game like what drugs were they smoking when they made this. But this game, I've never seen anything like this.
No,
ever.
Dash, I think you're wrong. It's
Seriously.
not a drug thing. It is you're playing. It's a migraine simulation.
Ooh.
This is
also
what happens
Minecraft
when-
too, by the way.
This
That
what is what
fisheye
happens. Like
lens.
this is what the world
Woof.
looks like when you have 70 insight. Like it is
Yeah.
incredible.
No
And
wonder
if it
people go
seems
crazy.
like it's difficult to kind of parse what's going on when you're playing, it 1000% is. But that being said, I've never seen anything like it. And it was an absolute joy to play and experience with it. It's just so cool. I'm extremely bad at the game, much like I was extremely bad at Devil Daggers.
Yeah,
But
Double Daggers is so. Both of the games are so hard. like,
it
looks
just
like-
rules.
It looks like the opposite of visual clarity.
Yeah. Like this is the anti-neon white.
yeah, it's a
Right.
maximalist visual statement.
These devs hate colorblind people.
I think they just say people with eyes.
Ayo.
But it seems that Ryan and I are operating in lockstep for this.
Yeah.
So
I can't
with
I mean, I
that,
have a
your
feeling
number
what your
one-
number one's going to be.
I can't wait
I'm
for your number
curious.
one to be Call of Duty since you guys only play first person shooters.
it's true.
Well,
but
Warzone
Jason,
2.
what do you think is the second best looking game of 2022?
hoping we match up.
I don't think we will. My second best is more just based on, I think, overall quality, like high resolution, just good realism looking things. I went with God of War Ragnarok. One of those
Yeah,
games
no.
that has some real pretty water.
Mm.
I don't know who all in here played it. I know Dash did, but I don't think the rest of you touched it. But it's just, I mean, it's
No.
a very new game, so it has high quality graphics and playing on current generation.
And I can
Yeah.
back you up on that. Like it's that Sony thing of these are the best graphics that money can buy. And since it's still based on like a lot of the PS4 kind of architecture, because I mean this is a cross-gen game, it
Mhm.
runs blisteringly smooth on a PS5. Like it's a locked 60 the entire game while still having this absolute remarkable like level of visual fidelity. I'm not sure that this is streaming back up to Zoom at 60 frames.
No.
But
I don't think
it
any of
looks
them have.
beautiful.
Well, one thing that I think is really impressive about God of War is like,
Oh, it has snowy mountains.
yeah, that
Yep.
too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, best game.
I have an honorable mention because of that. So, you know.
So God of War, like it looks great, cool. It's a PS5 thing, like awesome. That's what the next gen looks like. It also looks crazy good on PS4. Like it should not run that well and look that good on PS4, and it looks crazy good, which that is also super impressive.
Yeah, if I was doing a thing for like best visual fidelity of the year, I think I'd be hard pressed not to give it to God of War. It would be that or like Gran Turismo 7 or something. You know, that Sony first party things look good. They have a thing that they like to do, and I think that they are extremely successful in spending all of the money on graphics.
Yeah.
But with that,
I also think they did a good job like differentiating all the different levels you play in. I think it's
Mhm.
all the different worlds, since the universe is going through like a hellish winter, but they kind of show it differently in all the different lands, so it's not just snow everywhere you go.
Yeah, Mimir's really upfront about that. Like it's just like, oh yeah, it's not just Fimbulwinter doesn't mean snow for everywhere. Like some place, it's
Yeah.
like in this area, it's like a really temperate area, or this one, it's everything's really boggy and swampy. Like I think it's
Same.
even more successful than the original one in that regard with environmental change
Mhm.
ups, and even revisiting the areas that you went to in the first game now look different because of the
Mhm.
Fimbulwinter treatment. It's a good look. But Lily,
A
are
good
you going to
snow
talk about
field.
God of War as the
I'm
second best
surely
looking game?
not. As a matter of fact, I'm not. My number 2 was Sifu. I loved
and you
the
eat
way
it.
that it looked. Exactly. I tell you what, every single day I Sifu, I eat it. But yeah, I love the way that it looks, the way that they did all of the lighting while keeping it really. I feel like it's really simple but really intricate at the same time.
Mhm.
Like it's very detailed without being HD in like the current regard. And I think they did it really well, and I just love it through and through.
I think the style that they went with is a big reason why it's like so enjoyable to play and like kind of stands out from any other run through a place and smash people kind of game.
I feel like it's
It's-
almost like Borderlands, but toned down.
It's got
lot.
like that kind of like chunky painted look to it that I
where
really
it's
love.
like it's
Yeah.
not low poly, but it's lower poly than it maybe should be, and I think it's really successful with it.
Yeah.
Absolver kind of looked like this also, but I think
Yeah.
Sifu is way better at it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Which I mean, with all the time in between, it makes sense. But
Yeah, I'm a
So-
big fan of how Sifu looks.
Sifu is actually also my second.
Ayo.
Yeah, so
You also
Um,
Sifu and eat it.
So
Every
Hunter's
day.
God of War.
um,
More like
But yeah,
God of War.
I completely agree that it's extremely readable. Everything has a good wind up. Everything feels weighty. It's chunky. It everything kind of has an oomph to it.
Yeah.
There's-
Um,
it also has each level has just these beautifully distinct environments. Like everyone feels completely different from the last one. Like the gameplay stays pretty much like you just get more of what you're doing, but in terms of like where you're having this combat, it it's just so visually distinct. Like the second one, you're in a nightclub, and then in like a burning temple, and then in the third level, you're in this like stark white museum that like goes through these weird dark halls, and then you end up in this like snowy wilderness. It's beautiful. Like the environments are just
Oh shit! Snowy mountains.
It's they went and they sat down like, what are some cool places to beat the shit out of dudes in?
And immediately snowy mountains, top of the list.
Yeah, like it
Right
big
away.
big
A
John
burning
Wick
dojo.
like fight in a gun museum energy. I every single environment in Sifu is a cool place to beat the shit out of some dudes and very
Yeah.
well realized. But Hunter, what is
Yeah.
your second favorite place to beat the shit out of some dudes at? Of
God
2020?
of War Ragnarok. No, it's not.
Burger King foot lettuce.
Number 15, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Because I'm a real sucker for when a setting, like whatever story it's on, it's like you're actually just people on just an even bigger creature. Like the creature is so big, it just has entire ecosystems and people
Like
living on it.
Bionicles.
Yeah, like Bionicle. But
Yeah.
every Xenoblade does that except for X, but we don't talk about X because that one story was just frustrating. But with this one, especially, like I haven't played a whole lot of it, but like it also I haven't seen any like frame rate drops or anything despite this footage Dash is showing. Which like there are 6 party members on screen at all times, plus whatever the hell you're fighting and all the visual effects and shit. And it's like this is a Switch.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people joke, and ever since Pokemon came out, been like, yeah, this isn't the Switch. This is just Pokemon sucking. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Like every time I see stuff with Xenoblade, like even like the first one on the Wii, I was just like, how are they doing this on these consoles?
They also changed some things from 1 and 2, where there's those blue lines from the enemies to the dude that shows aggro. It used to be just always be blue, but they changed in this one so that if they're attacking your tanks, it's blue. But if they're targeting anyone else, it's now a red line to show, hey, you should probably get them to stop attacking your healer.
It's a big
Which
year
I-
for gameplay readability and visual design, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something
Outside of
we've
Hyper
needed.
Demon.
Yeah. It's something that's needed looked at for a while.
But yeah,
Plus, it's got beautiful environments.
I think I've always liked the general like Xenoblade style. When I was doing the stuff for Chronicles 2, like it's a super the visual language that the gameplay shows, but also the general like visual design of the worlds. It rules so much in a way that's like super unique to that franchise. Like the kind of magic technology, also vaguely Shadow of the Colossus-esque building design. Like I really like the way that game is visually designed.
The one thing visually I don't like is the Nopons, simply because the first one, the one that hangs out with you the most, has a really deep and off-putting voice compared to how like he's a small fluff ball man.
Does this one have Welsh cat girls?
I think so.
Fuck yeah. Okay. That's what I want.
So Dash has to reevaluate his number one now.
Okay, yeah,
I was gonna say,
I've got to rethink
You
things.
get a cat girl almost immediately, but I don't know if she's Welsh or not, because you know what the fuck is the difference?
if she's
between
not
British-
Welsh, then I'm not.
Yeah, what are we
interested.
even doing here?
Yeah, what if she's Badge?
Superman does Welsh.
Fuck, I was gonna say that.
Got to be quicker
So
on the draw, Dash.
That's gonna bring us around to maybe the most conflicted I have been about one of these awards ever. Part of my soul doesn't want to give this game a best anything ever, or even be acknowledged for any reason, because I don't want someone to maybe have heard me talk about it and then go and play it, or worse yet, spend the $40 that they are asking for this game. But then there is the part of my soul that knows that it's the best looking game that came out this year. So I unfortunately have to go against my brain and say that Scorn is the best looking game of 2022.
You heard it here. Dash endorses this game and he wants you to play it.
Already bought it.
I
That penis
fucking
feel.
It twice.
it's a bad fucking game in so many ways. I hated slogging through it. I was upset with where it ended and where it left up, but it's the best looking thing I played this year. It is, for those of you who are unaware or not looking at the screen, it's what if Myst was done by H.R. Giger. And the whole game just looks remarkable. It looks fucked up. It looks creepy. Everything is like that horrible blend of like living technology where every second of it being used hurts the person using it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely adore it. I really, really wish that it could be for a better video game. And I think it's a kind of a bummer that the game ended up sucking so bad. Because on visuals alone, it's an absolute knockout. I would love to see something else kind of do an HR Giger style in the future, but I've got a feeling that this may have poisoned the well a little bit on doing things like that. But I would still, I cannot in my heart say that I enjoyed looking at another game as much as I did this one. So I'm going to take a cue from Ryan with Sable and say this thing that frustrated me greatly is still the best looking game of 2022. But with that, Ryan, I swear to God, if your number one is Scorn,
It's not. I didn't get a
Okay.
chance to play it because it wouldn't work on my system. But it like it looks cool. But I went with Elden Ring on this one. Like I spent equal parts of that game like killing things as I did like going somewhere just so I could like look at stuff.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
everything is cool to look at. I love the design of the trees. Every area is distinct. It's got snowy mountains. But like that first time, like you walk into a Caelid and it's just like I should not be here. I don't want to be here. Like I feel
Yeah.
icky being here. And it's like I don't think I've ever had that
Yeah,
so like viscerally affect me in a game before. It's like going somewhere and being like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I want to go home.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, it was my number one as well. And I just think the way they like can show so much of this massive map at certain points, just really it just like sucks you into how expansive it is. It makes it feel like an entire world that you're going over. And yeah, how the areas do all look different. I had the same thought with Caelid. It's like as soon as you step in, you're like, I probably shouldn't come back here for 40 levels just by seeing the quick jump they went between the stuff you're fighting right before that, and then seeing the like dinosaur, dog, gigantic, massive birds and dragons everywhere.
The big skulls in the ground.
and like a lot of
Yeah,
that stuff is, I mean, those are very much things that Souls games have done in the past, but having it just be the big interconnected world does so
Right.
much for it. Like just being able to walk in a straight line, no loading screens from one end to the other, like it's a completely different vibe. But and it still feels cohesive despite having all of this visual variety to it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like there's something about just like going to a ledge and just looking out at the beautiful vistas, the beautiful horizons in this game. Like yeah, no, the environments are distinct but gorgeous like everywhere you go. And then when you get up close to things, there's so much detail, and it's just crafted with a lot of care. I am going to say sorry, Lily. I'm jumping ahead just
Oh.
for cohesiveness in this. It was also my number one for visuals. So
It was also my number one for visuals.
Hunter?
And there's two things that I want to mention. The first is when you very first open that door and come into Limgrave, and you see the air tree in the distance, and it's just fucking huge. And the very first view that you really get, like you get your asshole kicked in by the grafted scion, and you do the tutorial cave if you decide to, and all of that, and then you finally open that door, and the whole world just opens up in front of you. And I just fucking love that.
It had a very like Breath of the Wild opening sort of vibe. Yeah.
And also just a small note, I thought specifically like all the galaxy effects that they put in the game, the hanging enemies, like their galaxy attacks and all that, I just thought that it looked really fucking good. It stood out to me. So I just wanted to mention that. But yeah. You're welcome for watching.
Hunter, is yours Elden Ring?
My number one is also Elden Ring.
God damn it, I'm the only one.
But I'll mention something different. I really
Put that in your scorn and smoke it.
Like you go down, there's that one elevator where I don't fucking remember where. It's been since like March I played this. But you go down this elevator and you're like, oh, this elevator's a lot longer than I thought it would be. And then it just takes you to like one of the huge underground levels, and it's so far underground you can't even see the ceiling. It's just like a starry night sky above you. And you're like, what the fuck?
Wait, hey, maybe we'll get there. We'll
get there eventually.
We'll probably get there.
But just like at any point in Elden Ring, what I think is cool, like you saw it a second ago in that video, it's like you can look at the whole map and you have an idea of where to go, but then anywhere you are on the map, you can see places that you should probably go check out. Like they do a really good job of like, maybe go here, go check this thing out. So you don't really need, I feel like you don't really need like quest markers or too much direction, just because they do such a good job of like, come on, you want to go see that shit, and you're like, I do. You're right.
I guess
it also
everywhere else but Caelid.
Unlike very few, like it did this thing where the design of those areas, you think you are at the last area in the game about 6 times. Just because you will go to a place and be like, oh, this is obvious. Like when you go to the Atlas Plateau, it's like, okay, or Altus Plateau, it's like, this is obviously the final area of the game. And then it keeps going, and it's like, okay, well then this is the final area of the game. And then it keeps going, and it's like, okay, no, this has to be the end of the game. And then it keeps going and going and going and going.
There's also
all
one thing
unique, all interesting.
There was one thing I liked too, which is not necessarily like the graphics of the actual world, but when you first, open your map and you see areas that you don't have the map of, there's just like a little obelisk marking that shows you where the map is. But it took me a while to actually like connect the dots.
I played through the entire game without realizing that.
It took me until like I got the map for Limgrave, I got the map for Caelid, and then I went to Liurnia, and it took me until then to be like, what's this obelisk? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that one's bad for me.
That could have saved a lot of time.
That was one of the first things I did in the game, was try to go to all the obelisks. Some of them are easier to get to than others, but
Dash, did you just now learn about that?
No. I figured that out on my second playthrough. But no, I did the entirety of the first game without realizing that. I mean, I saw those and I acknowledged like, oh yeah, this is something on the map, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together that those were the obelisks that got me the map.
I didn't realize it for quite a while. Like I mean, it was maybe in the first 10 to 15 hours of the game, but I was struggling for a bit until someone pointed that out to me.
And you get that really good aha moment when you figure it out, and it's a really good thing that the game doesn't tell you that. The game should continue to not tell you things and let you figure them out on your own, because then it's really satisfying when you do. But with that, I think that brings us to an end.
I want to give a quick honorable mention to Shredders because it had snowy mountains.
I want to give an honorable mention to Shredder's Revenge because it's got good Ninja Turtle feel.
Shredders does look nice. I played a tiny bit of it.
I want to give
guess
an
while
honorable
we're-
mention to Frogun because it looks like a PS1 game and it does that really successfully.
I would like to shout out Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga because they are some ridiculously good-looking Legos with ray tracing on them, and they look extremely, extremely good.
Are they
That's true.
reflective?
Yes, they are.
Raymond
with-
tracing paper.
Roller Drome also looks really good, but not
Mm.
necessarily pushing the boundaries on anything. But with that, I think that's going to bring us to an end for the best visuals category. Really good looking gear for games in general. I feel like
Yeah.
we often end up with either a good looking gear for visuals or good soundtracks, and this was a visuals year. But that is going to lead us into our next category, which will be best original soundtrack, and we will see you then.